Well, good morning. This is another test video to see exactly how this thing works and see if it actually will do what it's advertised to do, and whether it will fulfill any requirements that I have for this type of thing. I am a person who has many interests. Don't have the wherewithal to tackle all of them, but I try and do the best I can. Mostly what I like to do is do a lot of traveling. I do some reading and movie watching. I have a lot of comments to make, especially on the state of the world, the state of society, and how the economic situation has turned since the days when I was working for a living right out of high school. And those were the days when if you had a high school education, you could get a good paying job that could support a family as far as that was concerned. But that's when we had a heavy manufacturing industrial system. Now, if it makes a difference at all, I'd like to go over some of that. I started my first real job at Roebling, New Jersey, for Colorado Fuel and Iron, John A. Roebling and Sons division, and it was an old factory. They made wire rope for suspension bridges, for elevators. They could also draw wire all the way down to less than the thickness of a hair, of a strand of hair, for any purposes that you could imagine. In fact, there's a test length of wire rope at the Smithsonian Institute. If I'm not mistaken, it was manufactured in the 1920s and used as a test example to show the type of product that they could manufacture. So that's where I worked. Today it's shut down. It's a Superfund site because as one of the problems with being in an industrial state is that you produce an awful lot of toxic emissions and waste that have to be contended with later on, and that's being contended with now. Eventually they'll make a museum there somewhere to, reveal the history of John A. Roebling and Sons and the importance they were to the American industrial story. But as you look around, you can see it's a wasteland now. That is according to the photographs I took some years ago. I don't know what it looks like now. But if you take a look down the Rancocas River and various other places there were towns that were based on heavy industry that no longer have any industry. And when you look across the river from where John A. Roebling and Sons was operating, you can see a large mound of dirt where a large steel mill used to be in the early 70s. So that's all that's left of that. I always tell people that want to bother to listen to me, or usually they're rather bored when I start talking about it, that this country used to manufacture just about anything you could imagine. You think about it for a second and you'll know what I'm talking about. Today we have outsourced that to other countries because we don't really care what happens to their air and water unless it affects us, and we benefit from it. Sometimes I'll be reading an article by Noam Chomsky, and one of the things that he brings up is that every time you turn on a light switch or turn over the engine of your car, somebody is sickened with an incurable disease or being waterboarded somewhere to support a right-wing government dictatorship that this country finds useful to be in place so that we can continue our manufacturing capability and use the largest share of the world's resources. Also, though, I have to take a look at what Bill Clinton said some years ago in an interview, that the populations of the world, especially the largest population centers, such as China and India, which account for some 3 billion peoples and ever growing, will be heavily industrialized, and their population will want the same things that we have had. So this cycle is going to continue forever. It's probably part of the human process. If you think you can stop humans from expanding, you can't. What you have to do is deal with it in another way. I don't know exactly what that way is, but maybe it's something that can be explored in future videos. Well, that's it for now for this morning. This is the first time I've done a video through a webcam that's sitting on the top of my laptop right now, laptop screen. Hopefully it'll come out right, and it'll be halfway coherent so that I can speak a little bit more fluently and be understood much more accurately in the future. Well, that's it for now, and have a good morning.